Yo, 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 it's your science guy, Soor, and I'm back here presenting the second episode of New Era Gillette Gazette. And I'm here again with my guy, Aiden Hauser. Aiden, how you doing?
Pretty stoked. Football season's right around the corner. I'm just excited for Thursday. I'm excited for Friday. Excited for Sunday to watch the Patriots. I'm excited. I'm excited
Oh,
for
yeah.
the season to finally be here. It's been a long off season.
It has been a long off season. We got a little preview this weekend of what a football weekend could look like with Labor Day football, and great college slate overall. But it's time for the big leagues, and I'm definitely excited. I think it's a bit of a new feeling. This is kind of the first time where the preseason expectations are this low. I think last season we kind of had to recalibrate midseason. But this is the first time where we head in to preseason with kind of a low win total. But it's still new football. Patriots Nation always shows up. How are we feeling about Sunday's game?
I'm excited that it's here. I'm not excited to see how it goes. I'm excited to see some of the young guys play, but I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. I don't think we win it, but that's just my initial thought.
No, yeah, we'll get to like overall predictions later, but I agree. I think it is. There's a lot of newness in the team, which is exciting because I feel like last year it felt like we were trying a broken formula again, and as we know, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing multiple times and expecting different results. At least now it feels like, okay, we've had a bit of an aggressive strategy in the draft. We got the early quarterback. We got a couple of receivers. Maybe not so much in the free agency period, but got a couple acquisitions there too. Like, at least there's newness. But there's also newness on the scary level. What's the defensive line going to look like without Judon? What's the coaching staff going to look like without the greatest of all time? I mean, that's it's weird. It's going to be weird not to see the hoodie on the sideline. I don't know how I'm going to calibrate my eyes to that sight. But speaking of newness, we got a new update. Brissett was named the starting quarterback. A bit of a controversial decision. Both you and I were kind of discussing how we could see this going either way. So, given that, what do you think?
I thought first off, I think having the press conference was a little overkill. I was kind of having a little bit of hope that he was making a press conference to announce that May would be the starter. But at the same time, I'm not surprised Brissett's the starter. I think looking at it as a whole season is probably the smarter choice, just knowing that we're not going to be good. So why risk, throwing May to the Wolves and potentially getting hurt, especially with the slate of the first few games that we have.
Yeah, I agree. As far as the press conference, at first I was a little confused, but I also feel like it's good to get Mayo out there and get the fans familiar and used to seeing his face all the time. It's also going to be weird to have press conferences where we're actually given some level of detail about what the team's doing and not unbelievably cryptic responses. But I am gonna, I would have liked we're on to Cincinnati this week because we are on to Cincinnati, and that's one of the harder opening games that we've had, and with one of the worst Patriots teams in my lifetime. Joe Burrow's back. It's going to be a very challenging game. The Bengals present a lot of threats, especially on the offensive side. They've got an excellent running back room. They've got unbelievable wide receiver depth. Just a good team. Going to be very difficult to stop them, but at the same time, we have the defense to limit them. And so, yeah, like on kind of on a big picture level, like what do you view this matchup as?
I mean, I think it's going to be more of obviously I don't even know what it's going to be. I think it's going to be whatever Joe Burrow really makes it. Honestly, our offense isn't going to win the game. It's got to be the defense. So it'll be just a Burrow versus our defense sort of matchup.
Yeah, and last time that matchup happened, for the most part, I felt like our defense got the better of Burrow. I mean, our offense got in our own way time and time again, but especially towards the second half of that game, Burrow wasn't able to do much against us. Like, we had a very dysfunctional team. We were fresh off the horror in Vegas, and yet we competed with a Bengals team that was way better than us. And so I look back at that game and I'm like, maybe this isn't going to be as much of a blowout as people think it is. I think our offense presents a lot of, there's a lot of dysfunction in our offense, but there's also there's a lot to plan against, because just like we haven't figured out what we're doing, other teams haven't really figured out what we're doing either. And, how do you guard, how do you deal with Jalen Polk and Javon Baker on the NFL level? You haven't seen that. You don't have data points on it. You can take advantage of some of these things, and a Mayo defense will look Belichickian in some ways, because he trained under him both as a player and a coach, but he's going to add his own elements to it. So I'm excited to see what this new style of Patriots football looks like, especially on the defensive end. But I think, I still think it's going to be a tough game. And so looking at that, where do you think we have the best chance of hurting them?
I think it's our run defense. I think their running group is okay. Like he's an okay running back. He did good in the absence of Taylor last year. But I mean, we've seen enough of him to know that he's not exactly you don't have to like game plan around him. And then Chase Brown's I think he's more of the question mark of, is he going to be a big part of the offense? Is he going to be the big play guy, the receiving guy? Like what's he going to look like? But I know last year our run defense was good. And I'd assume we didn't really lose many. I don't think really lost anyone other than Judon. So I assume it to be pretty good as well. So I think that's probably our best bet, is just stop the run game. Absolutely. And then I mean, most unfavorable is obviously their receivers are phenomenal. Like a top 5 unit for sure. I mean, with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So that it's going to be interesting. I'm actually pretty excited just to see how Gonzalez will hold up against Chase, assuming he's going to be shadowing him, I'm sure, most of the game. I know he held his own for the most part against Tyreek in the limited games he played, or that one game he played with Tyreek. Just kind of see what Gonzalez has got. I don't know. Again, I think they're going to destroy us through the air, but
yeah, it's gonna be fascinating, because I think they have a really good air attack. Obviously, a world-class quarterback in Burrow, and then a pantheon of good receivers. Obviously, Higgins and Chase are the main names that come to mind. But I also, like, currently as their third receiver, they have a guy named Andre Iosivas from he kind of was under the radar during draft season, mostly because he went to school at Princeton. But he was on one of my lists of like underrated wide receivers in the draft. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's going to be a problem to deal with. The tight end duo of Drew Sample and Mike Gesicki is definitely underrated. I think because of the offense, we didn't get the full Mike Gesicki experience, but I think I still think he's a very good player on the right team. And with the Bengals having so many weapons, he absolutely has the chance to stand out. And so I'm excited to see what he's able to do over there. Well, excited as in, you know, like as a neutral football fan, I'm curious and excited to see what he can do. As a Patriots fan, I'm horrified just thinking of the depth that they have. It's not just the fact that they have a couple of really great weapons. It's the fact that they have a lot of depth. But I also think our secondary holds up. We have a great duo of starting safeties in Duggar and Peppers, and great re-signings. We have a decent cornerback room. Gonzalez, obviously, that matchup against Chase is going to be fantastic. Jonathan Jones has been reliable and just not talked about enough anywhere, whether it's Patriots circles or NFL circles. The guy, he's been a excellent CB2 year in and year out, and I feel like it doesn't get the love it might deserve. You've also got you've also got pass catching. You've also got pass coverage talent in the linebacker room, especially with Bentley. And then Alex Austin, I still feel is an underrated corner. He came in a bit of an emergency role after all those injuries, but he's there. And then we've got Marcus Jones coming back. So there's actually more depth than we might think in that end of things. We obviously don't have the other Jones, Jack, but yeah, I guess this is a one Jones team after we initially had three. But I'm interested in that matchup. It's not the matchup that scares me the most, because the matchup that scares me the most is their edges versus our tackles. And it's simply a matter of our offensive line has no leg to stand on. It's been the biggest weakness of the team, including Mac Jones. It was the biggest weakness of our team last year. It was the biggest weakness of our team the year before. And the edges are where the Bengals defense is the strongest. I think the rest of the defense is actually somewhat exploitable. If Polk, Baker, and Douglas can show up, they can make life somewhat difficult for the secondary, but they need time. Mondre needs time. Mondre needs space. Brissett will need time, much more so than maybe May. And so that's the matchup that definitely scares me the most. As far as most favorable, I would say I would agree with the run defense. I feel like, and when I said the running back room was extraordinary, I forgot about the offseason they had, and forgot about the fact that they don't have a Joe Mixon anymore. Zach Moss has not been in this kind of leading running back role. I'm not sure how well he'll take to it. He hasn't really proven the ability to do that in the past. He spent a lot of his time in Buffalo behind Devin Singletary, and even after that, he's shown signs of being able to be an RB1, but he's not shown signs of being able to do it consistently. So that's definitely going to be interesting. And so I know a lot of us had our fantasy drafts recently. So who do you have your eyes on fantasy wise for both teams?
Well, I mean, aside from the obvious in Cincinnati and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, I think I do look a lot at Chase Brown. Just he's shown he's made a couple of big plays last year. He's faster. He's faster than Zach Moss. He's got the receiving prowess. I think he's going to be a little more of a high upside player than Moss might be, more of the just a steady carry guy. So I think if I were in a pinch, I think I would rather start Brown over Moss. And then New England, I think the only guy I'd really look at right now, just at the beginning of the season, is just Ramondre. I think he'd be like a decent flex option. I don't know if I would want to have him as my RB2 unless I have like a McCaffrey or something. That's fine, but I just think the offense is going to just struggle moving the ball. He's not going to have a lot of goal line carries because I don't think we're going to be in the red zone all that much. So at that point, you're just kind of hoping on production and receiving value.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I think it's interesting. When you're looking at New England, New England's never been a team to watch in the fantasy end of things, but this season
Right.
even less so. There are definitely players on the team that were probably not taken in drafts that you might want to watch for.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jalen Pope and Javon Baker have very high ceilings. I don't think they're in a situation where they're going to find that ceiling anytime soon, maybe even anytime this season. But if the offensive line can even get a little bit better, I feel like those guys have a big chance to seriously shine.
Yeah, I think they're better like dynasty plays, but for like redraft, I think Demario Douglas has a good shot at just some PPR value too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And another underrated guy I think for us would be Antonio Gibson because I think he's gonna. I think the running back pass catching game is going to be a big part of what we do. It's especially when you're dealing with pressure. It's a simple play call that can do good things for you. And I think the Patriots are going to use it a lot. I also like him as a third down back, and especially now that now that we didn't take Kevin Harris, I could see him being used in goal line situations too. So he might end up sneaking some touchdowns away from Ramondre. As far as the Bengals, it's kind of obvious. It's a smorgasbord. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, like they've got options galore. But one interesting thing I found on fantasy is that the Patriots defense was rated like second lowest. I took a leap of faith in them and drafted them in both my leagues to show the fantasy lords who's who. But I don't agree with that assessment. I know we're going to be giving up the ball a lot, but with Marcus Jones at punt returner and the defense that the talent that we have on defense, I don't buy it.
Yeah, I think you can do a lot worse than the Patriots defense. It does scare me. I think the first few games and just being against like Miami, the Jets, the Niners, like some of these high-powered offenses. So that might scare me a little bit, but maybe in the second half of the season. But I think you do bring up a good point with Marcus Jones and his punt return ability. Just he I mean, we have an excellent punt returner in him. So I mean, he can definitely take a handful to the house, which is huge for anybody starting a defense. So I think that's a fair argument to make too.
Yeah, and so it's gonna be interesting. I feel like week one never goes how people expect it to go for fantasy. Last year, Joe Burrow, who was my starting quarterback, got injured very early in the season, and that was fun. He started out by playing terrible football, and then he finished out by getting injured. And so it's going to be interesting to see what a healthy Joe Burrow looks like, both from a fantasy perspective and from an actual perspective. I don't think Joe Burrow is the best starter. And I think that's something that the Patriots defense can take advantage of. I would much rather play him in week 1 than week 15. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What do you think about that? Do you think Joe Burrow is going to start poorly again this season, or do you think he's going to figure it out?
I mean, I think to some extent everyone's going to kind of have a rusty first game. So I mean, I guess we could have a lot worse of a matchup, especially because you did bring up that he is a lot better at the end of the season. So I mean, I think looking at it on paper, I'm not excited to play Joe Burrow, but I think it's also just a fair reminder to know like he has been away from the game a little bit longer too, considering he did end the season in injury. So he might still have a little bit of rust to shake off. And hopefully we can take advantage of that, especially with our young and upcoming defense, primarily in the secondary, I mean.
Yeah, I think it's going to be – I also think it's going to be very important to get to him. And that's where you definitely wish you had Judon. That's there's no doubt about that. But at the same time, still think there's a lot of talent on this defensive line. Keon White is going to be put in a new role, and so it's going to be interesting to see how he does. What are you expecting from him?
I mean, I think I'm expecting him to be solid. I don't expect superstardom out of him at all, or yet, but I'm expecting at least adequate starter play. At least I'm hoping for it. They seem to have some sort of faith and trust in White in sending Judon away. So I'm hoping he plays well. I know there's been a lot of positive reports out of training camp, and he looked pretty good in our preseason games as well. So I'm hoping like he plays well, but I'm not expecting like a superstar or anything at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to take time. I think a lot's going to take time with this team, and so I don't think you're going to see the completed version of the Bengals, but you're absolutely not going to see the completed version of even this year's Patriots team. Out of curiosity, given that it's week 1, given that he has no, do you think we would have a better chance in this game if we put Drake May out there week 1 than we do now?
100%. I think we even saw just in the preseason game of the pocket collapsing, him just rolling out, and granted that the play didn't count because of the penalty, but just launching that deep pass to was it Osborne? I think it was.
Yeah, it was Osborne.
Like Brissett doesn't do that. Like he was mobile. I remember he was fairly mobile when we first drafted him, but he's kind of digressed into that just pocket passer, kind of just throw to the flats guy. I've noticed more so than May kind of just wants to attack and like roll out of the pocket or even rush. So I think even just that dynamic alone just opens up the offense that much more and makes the defense play a little more honest. So I think we have there's more to game plan with May's mobility than there is just with Brissett kind of just being a statue. And so I think we would have a better chance with May starting week 1.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Especially because, again, the Bengals defense, outside of their edge rushers, they've got some good players here and there, but I wouldn't say that's the strength of their team. I wouldn't say they're an overly cohesive unit. But any NFL defense can stop a simple offense.
Right.
Drake May adds kinks, he adds complexities, things that it's very difficult to game plan for impromptu decision making. And when you have a scrambler and when you have a guy that can take it and run, and is pretty good at making quick decisions, I think that's a huge advantage when you're going against especially weaker defenses. And the other thing with May is that I've noticed, watching both his North Carolina tape and his preseason tape, that he excels at releasing the ball pretty quickly, which is super important when it comes to dealing with our offensive line. The Bengals are going to get pressure, especially on the edges. Not only do I feel that Drake May has the edge over Brissett in pocket mobility, but I also feel like he has a quicker release and just faster twitch decision making. And yeah, you would see some rookie mistakes, but I think the advantages far outweigh those, especially because I don't think Brissett has shown even his best form. Let's not forget that he's not anywhere near his physical prime. He's been a journeyman in this league for a while. He's been everywhere. And while he has a lot of experience and a good demeanor that comes from that, he's also 31 years old. And so he's towards the tail end of his career. He's dealt with a couple injuries here and there as well. And so, yeah, I fully agree here. And who do you think is the X factor of this game? Like, who's a non-obvious player that could end up winning this whole thing for the Patriots?
I think Tyquan Thornton, maybe. I don't know. I think he hasn't done much in the league. He is that big play guy for us. He's not going to be a 6-catch guy. He's not going to get a lot of catches, I don't think. He's going to be that take a few deep shots here and there. If he can get like a long touchdown or a long gain, something big, I think that could be enough to hopefully spark something, or I don't know. I think that could be maybe a little X factor, or maybe just some surprisingly well O-line play.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with you. And the thing with Thornton, you can't ignore the vertical speed. That he still has. He has it in spades. The problem has been his route running in his hands. I think this is the best offensive staff he has had. And so I almost, there's a part of me that wants to give him some amount of benefit of doubt and say that maybe this reset could be good for him. I really think since the McDaniels era, this is, I think, the best offensive staff this team has had. And I think he's definitely in a position to develop. I also think, there other than just the deep shots, there are other ways he can contribute to the team. In his rookie season, he was very successful with some of the gadget plays and some of the end arounds. You can use his speed kind of the same way you use a Marcus Jones. And that brings me to my X factor of the game. I think it's Jones. I think he's gonna. I think a completed version of this team uses him all around. I don't think we're there as far as using him on offense. I think I want the team to come into its own a little bit more before we start adding that wrinkle in. Especially because I don't want to waste an ace in the hole type of play while we're not good enough to win games with it yet.
Right.
But he's the kind of guy that whenever the ball's in his hands, he can accelerate like crazy. He has extremely quick feet. I think he's still a bit raw as a corner, but now it's his third year. Unfortunately, he hasn't had a lot of experience playing the position. So I'm curious to see now, with an opportunity to play a full season, hopefully as corner, how he can adapt. But he's had some moments of really good cornerback play, interspersed with some moments of inexperienced mistakes. And I think I really like our top 2/3 corners. I like Gonzo and Jones a lot, but I think where teams can exploit us, especially a team that's as deep as the Bengals, is the depth. How do their third and fourth weapons, which are good players, do against our third and fourth cornerbacks, which are, I would say, wild cards? I think they both have the potential to be good players, but I also think they have the potential to have bad games, and so I'm interested to see
Sure.
how that goes. Also, the punt
For
return.
sure.
I mean, I think this defense is going to force a few punts, and we didn't get to see the only exciting part of our 2022 team much last year. But if the Patriots are going to win this game, it might involve some non-offensive points.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if we were to win this game, he would have a hand in some of the scoring.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. What do you think? How do you think this game is going to end up? I think you mentioned offline that the line is plus 9.5, right, for the Patriots?
I think it was, yeah. I don't know. I think I want to be a little more Pats friendly, but I think still a loss. I think 16. We were talking about earlier. I think 16-23 is it's kind of where my prediction is. Maybe I don't know, late late third quarter touchdown, and there was interspersed with a couple of field goals here and there for us, and then hopefully limiting Joe Burrow to 2 touchdowns or something kind of like that. I don't think the Bengals are gonna walk all over us like I'm sure a lot of people are predicting. Just because our defense is a lot better than people give us credit for. I think they want to kind of just look at the Patriots as a whole as a terrible team, but our defense is good. So I think we can limit them to 20 something points, like a lower 20s. But I don't think our offense is going to score much.
Yeah, I agree. I think the key to limiting their scoring against us is going to be winning the field position battle.
Yeah.
Too many times last year we would, like, the few points that we did allow in a lot of the games that we lost came off turnovers, either directly in the form of pick sixes or scooped and scores, or indirectly in the form of turnovers bringing us to like having to defend starting in the red zone. Happened way too often. There would be times where we would force a 3 and out on our drive, but the drive would start in field goal range and it would finish in field goal range, so they'd score 3. I think the field position battle is going to be really important. Avoiding turnovers, playing safe, like relatively safe football, letting Bryce Behringer's leg help out and letting Joey Sly's leg help out. I like your scoreline. I think there are going to be a lot of field goals. I'm going to go 20-10. 20-13. I think we're going to score three successful drives. Sounds about right. Probably going to be a couple where we get a couple first downs and finish just short as well. But I also think the Bengals are going to have their fair share of scoring, and they're going to have their fair share of offensive success. So I don't know how much we're going to have the ball. I think the onus is going to be on the defense a lot. I think if we are another thing is if we are to win this game, we're going to have to force turnovers, and we're going to have to create those plus situations. I would imagine that of those 13 points, I would say maybe 3 of them come from us getting the ball in their territory via an interception or something.
Sure.
It's going to be interesting, but I think because of our win total and just because of the overall strength of our team, there's going to be a lot of high spreads, and I would probably take the Patriots against the spread most games. I think they're going to lose a lot of games by single digits. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how that ends up. It's going to be frustrating seeing them lose a lot of games by single digits, but it's something they've done time and time again, and their defense is too good to get blown out of the water by almost anyone.
Right.
You take like high-powered offenses like Miami and Kansas City looked somewhat pedestrian against our defenses. It keeps happening, and while again, we don't have the greatest defensive mind in NFL history anymore. We have one of his creations.
Mm-hmm.
We have one of his best linebackers of all time. We have one of his sons as our safeties coach, and we have a defensive coordinator that was trained by him. So
right,
it's gonna be interesting.
it is going to be interesting for sure.
And going beyond this game and going kind of zooming out, how many games, like looking at, let's zoom out and take a look at the schedule. Let's make a little prediction here. Where in the schedule do we think Drake May is going to come out?
Oh, let me look real quick here.
Because after the Bengals, we've got the Seahawks, which could end up being one of our more winnable games this season. Jets, 49ers, Dolphins, Texans, Jags. This is a brutal start to the season.
Mm-hmm.
Playoff caliber teams all around. You've got the Seahawks, who are a fringe playoff team, but have the potential to be good. You have the Jets, who with Rodgers could be a very strong squad and have a lot of talent around him. You've got the 49ers, who are arguably one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the best. Then the Dolphins, high-octane offense. You've got the Texans, who are on the rise. The Jags, who didn't make the playoffs last year, but were there recently and have the potential to get there again. I mean, maybe it's May versus Mac in that game. Who knows?
That would be insane.
And then it's the Jets, and then we finally play the Titans. There isn't exactly a convenient spot for Drake May to come in. And that's why I wanted to ask this question. I was looking at the schedule. I don't want to wait for an easily winnable game, because I don't know if there are any of those this season. I want to see Drake May sooner than later. The Patriots, the entire fan base will want to see him sooner than later. You need, within that stretch of games, you need something drumming up excitement. So how many weeks of Jacoby Brissett do you think we're going to see?
I bet we see it 4 or 5. I think ideally I would just like to see May sit until the Niners game's over. I just don't want him to be out there and just get destroyed by Bosa and Fred Warner every other play.
Yeah.
So I think
I like that. I would definitely agree. Go on.
So I could see him coming in, like, I don't know, maybe Texans or even Dolphins on October 6th. That would be at least my prediction. I don't really think there's a reality where he doesn't come in and take over starting duties. I don't think they're going to sit him for a whole year. But as a fan, I hope if he's going to sit, they have to sit him till at least the 49ers game's over.
I agree. I think the 49ers game is too brutal of a setting to put him out in that early into his career. But yeah, I think beyond the Texans game, it's going to be up to Brissett to make May sit. The only way I can see May sitting longer than 6 games is if Brissett makes the quarterback competition moot and he starts playing really good ball. And in that case, if we're a contending team, which would really be something, but if we're a contending team and we're somewhere in that playoff mix, at that point, no, I don't, don't fix what ain't broke. Let Brissett play out the season if they're of that quality. No, I don't think that's going to happen. So I like the Dolphins as a spot to put him in. It's a home game. It's right after the 49ers game, so morale will be at an all-time low. I don't even know if I'm going to watch that game. I mean, I will. I'm a Patriots fan. I watch every game, but it's not going to be fun. Our last game against the 49ers, I think, was 33-6, Cam Newton, something like that. Don't remember it being very fun. Jimmy Garoppolo made us look foolish. But I think that's the game where Brady's going to come commentate. I feel like it's the perfect storm to rescue the fan base back from the dead after the 49ers game. I feel like that's the best spot to put him in.
Right.
You could put him in later. You could put him in for the Texans game and the Jaguars game. Honestly, after the 49ers game, there's no bad spot to put him in. I don't think any game presents the defensive horrors that one does.
No, not at all.
Because then you've got a palatable stretch. You've got the Dolphins, who are a better team than us, but they're not defensively extraordinary.
And it seems like we beat them once a year. Like those division games are just something different about them. I'm not horrified.
I mean, we beat them once a year in theory, but when's the last time we beat Miami? Was it Cam?
Was it that long ago?
I think it was Cam. We won the first game of the season with Cam, and for a moment there, that same day Brady threw 2 picks, and for a moment there I was like, Brady is an idiot. We just upgraded at quarterback. What was he thinking? He's just a system guy. For that 1 week, we were on a cloud, and then he played that Seahawks game, and I was like, oh, we've got a fantastic quarterback over here. Look, obviously things didn't go so well after that, and then we lost the second game against the offense. But then I think Jones lost every game he played against Miami, as far as I remember. Yeah. I'm looking back at this. We haven't beaten the Dolphins since Cam Newton was on the team. I would like for that to change this year. I'm getting a little tired of losing to them. It's weird to see the Dolphins have this kind of winning streak against us, for sure. So, going to be interesting. Oh, also, sorry, I was wrong. We did beat them last year. We beat Skylar Thompson. I mean,
barely.
Great, we beat Skylar Thompson.
Awesome. The legendary Skylar Thompson.
That's what it took for the Patriots to beat the Dolphins in the post-Brady era.
And we barely beat them too.
Yeah. I remember the sack that Mac Jones took on 4th down. Even that was not a pretty game. Nothing's pretty against Miami. But I think they have exploitable weaknesses, and I think that would be a good spot to start him.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Out of curiosity, other than the Patriots game, because this is exciting. This week is exciting for many other reasons than just New England. It's the start of the NFL. I'm going to have Red Zone on the whole time. Well, not during the Patriots game, but the rest of the slots, I'm going to have Red Zone on the whole time. A lot of good football this week. What game excites you the most other than the Patriots game?
I'd have to say, I don't know, probably Packers Eagles. Just being in Green Bay now, it's going to be crazy. So I'm not saying I'm a Packers fan at all, but I just know like all my coworkers are going to be talking about it. So I'm just kind of interested to see how that game goes. But I am really excited also for just the kickoff with the Ravens and Chiefs. That's going to be a phenomenal game.
I think it's one of the best I feel like it's one of the best kickoff matchups we had in a long time.
Yeah, it's going to be. I don't think there's any way it's not going to be a good game.
Yeah, it's a rematch of an AFC Championship where, I mean, the Ravens kept it close, but despite playing, I would say, one of the worst games I've ever seen Lamar Jackson play. I don't think he's going to play nearly as badly this time. The Chiefs, and you can never write off the Chiefs in any game. Mahomes is too good. It's going to be fascinating. Going to be an interesting pulse check for the rest of the season. I like Packers-Eagles as another choice there because I'm curious to see how Jordan Love follows his first, successful season.
I am too. There's an insane amount of hype just around the Packers right now, and I just wonder how true it is. Like, I think Jordan Love is good, but I mean, he's got to prove that he's like worth the money he was just paid.
Yeah,
and like playing against the Eagles is a great like first game to like prove like to all the fans that he's worth what he was paid.
For sure. And I think Jets 49ers is going to be fascinating as well. I don't think it's going to be a very close game. I think the 49ers are going to win fairly convincingly, but it's going to be interesting to see, one, does Aaron Rodgers make it? Does he get through the game? Does he get through the first series? I mean,
did the Jets improve their O-line much? I remember they had a pretty horrible O-line last year. Do you know if they've made any big additions to that or anything, or no?
I still think their O-line is in bad shape, but I know they made a couple acquisitions. Cannot remember who they are. I'm gonna take a look. But it's going to be a big factor. Aaron Rodgers, even healthy, is very old and clearly does not have the longevity that Brady has. I don't know what version of Aaron Rodgers we're going to see, even if nothing happens to him. I mean, they did sign Tyron Smith, which I remember now because I remember wanting us to sign Tyron Smith, and then we didn't. But I don't think they've made any other big changes, and so I'm not sure what to make of that. I think the Jets are actually a very talented team, but they, like us, they have that one big weakness. Well, we have many, but they have one big weakness at O-line. It's going to be, I don't know how that's going to hold up against San Francisco. I mean, obviously, don't want to see Aaron Rodgers get injured again. That's not the spirit of the game, but I think he's going to have a tough time being at his best this season. A lot of people think that just subbing Aaron Rodgers in there is going to fix all their problems. I don't agree. I think it definitely elevates them. I think they're in playoff contention, but I don't see the championship contention status that a lot of people see for them. And it's going to be interesting. Wanted to finish with one last topic. How do we think the division is going to shake out this year? This is probably the most even the top three teams have looked in the AFC. And so I'm very curious to see how things wind up. How do you think things are going to end up? Do the Bills win again?
I think Miami will edge out Buffalo just a little bit. I think Buffalo, I mean, losing Diggs was big. And I'm pretty sure they also lost. I don't think they re-signed Poyer, Hyde, or Tre'Davious White. I think all three of them left. I could be wrong, but I don't remember any of those three guys getting signing. And they were like, they're all starters, so I think that's pretty significant. Granted, I don't remember who Miami's lost, but I know that their offense is still going to be electric, where the Bills are a little bit of a question mark, I think, on both sides. So I think Miami wins. I think Buffalo is probably a few games behind, and then the Jets, and then New England.
Yeah, I agree with all that. This is the first time we're going to see post Diggs Allen. I don't know how he's going to adapt. His wide receiver core is definitely a lot worse. I mean, I think Curtis Samuel was definitely a really good offseason signing, but it's not an apple to apple change. And he's also without Gabe Davis, who he got really comfortable with last season and late the season before. So that's an underrated aspect of all this. I think Keon Coleman is going to be an X factor for them. Going to be interesting to see how he does in his rookie year. But yeah, I think the team's I really feel like the team has gotten a fair bit worse. I think their secondary it definitely is taking a step back, and right now they have DeMar Hamlin on the top of their free safety depth chart, which is stunning to me. I have no idea what he's going to look like, back on the football field. Great to see. Obviously, it's a great story and great to see that he's in a position where he can play a prominent role on an NFL team. But story aside, I don't know what we're going to expect from him. And so I think there are a lot of question marks with that team. The Dolphins kind of keep things where they were last year. And I mean, last year's team, sure, they didn't look, they were definitely inconsistent, but they had the offensive firepower. There's a very good synergy right now between Tua, Waddle, and Hill. Like it's a strong squad. I could see, and it's interesting. I could see any arrangement between the top three teams. If Aaron Rodgers starts playing back to his prime Packer days, I mean, or anywhere near that even, and the offensive line gets, if Tyron Smith ends up panning out for them and they end up figuring out on the offensive line end of things, the Jets could win the division. And then the Bills seem like the least likely, honestly. They're the only team that I feel like is taking a huge step back when two of the teams of the division are taking a huge step forward. And I could see the Patriots playing a big role in the division race, not from a perspective of being a contender to win, but I think they're definitely the kind of team that could spring on some annoying upsets for teams that are trying to make the playoffs and win the division. The Patriots have always been a pesky team to play, no matter how where they are. They were a pesky team for the division to play last year. I mean, that I almost forgot for a bit about how amazing the Bills game was last year. Like a random, completely unexpected high in a terrible season. Mac Jones played like Tom Brady for a game, and I think the Patriots have the ability to complicate things for all three of these teams. I don't mind the role of spoiler for a year. It's going to be interesting.
For sure. 100% interesting.
Yeah, it's really nice to finally preview regular season football. We'll see what the mood is when we meet next week, but we'll be previewing week 2. We'll be analyzing week 1. We're gonna figure out what to make of this Patriots team. We're finally gonna get a glimpse of what it looks like in a regular season setting. So that's gonna be interesting, and we'll be previewing a game in Seattle. We'll be previewing the home opener. So it's gonna be fascinating. But great to have you all on, and looking forward to more episodes with you, Aiden. So
looking forward to it as well. Yeah, it's been fun.
And may the less good team win.
May the less good team win. Yes, indeed.
All right. Peace, Patriots Nation.